As much as I hate to do this, ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention again, please. Put a plate in front of them, it's like herding cats to get them back, right? I'm so grateful to all of you who have joined us today to be a part of this wonderful event, and we really are walking shoulder to shoulder with our future homeowners by our presence here today, and we're helping them realize their dream of affordable home ownership. I want to acknowledge the dedicated elected officials who have joined us this morning, and so when I call your name, if you would please remain standing, and I would ask that everyone hold your applause until the end. From Senator Cardin's office, we have Ken Reichert, who is here. We also have from County Executive Elrich's office, Kate Chance in the Office of Community Partnerships, and Kelly Vaughn from the Department of Housing and Community Affairs. If you would stand, please. Thank you. We're glad you're with us today. I'll also call your attention to the event program for today, in particular the sponsorship pages in the program, because it's only through the support and dedication of the many business organizations and individuals who believe in the importance of affordable housing that this event is even possible. I'd like to take a moment to give special thanks to Marriott International for their leadership and support. And I'd also like to thank Cheney Enterprises and the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, who have been generous partners with us over the years. I'd also like to highlight AHC, Fleischer Arrowwood of Compass, and Sandy Spring Bank for their generous sponsorships. I also want to point out the numerous sponsors of this event at the foundation sponsor level, all of whom are listed in the program and during the presentation that you'll hear during this breakfast. The Habitat model only works because of generous support of businesses and individuals who, like yourselves, are focused on making our community a wonderful place for everyone to live. Thank you all for your generous leadership and support of Habitat of Metro Maryland. Thank you so much. Before I introduce you to one of our newest homeowners, let me take a moment to share a little bit with you about the vision and mission of Habitat for Humanity and what actually drives us here in Montgomery and Prince George's counties to empower families through affordable housing ownership. The seeds of what will become Habitat for Humanity were planted at Koinonia Farm, the name which is derived from the Greek word for denoting how special community is to God. It was an interracial community farm in southern Georgia where radical inclusivity was demonstrated and the concept of partnership housing came into being. The idea of partnership housing centered on those in need of housing working alongside with volunteers who built decent, affordable homes that were built at no profit and then sold to homeowners with no interest loans. These two concepts, radical inclusivity, bringing people from all walks of life together, and partnership housing, becoming partners with families in need, are still at the core of our mission and vision to this day. At Habitat, we do our work because we believe that no matter who you are or where you come from, we all deserve the opportunity to experience stability day after day. We all deserve to know that we have the power to take care of ourselves and build our own bright futures. Through Habitat, and more importantly, through all of you today, people's lives are put on a new path, one where stability and self-reliance are actually obtainable instead of merely aspirational. Right now, I'd like to introduce Sarah Redinger, who is Habitat for Humanity Metro Maryland's Vice President of Community Development. Let's welcome her as she comes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to introduce a video from one of Habitat's most recent homebuyers. But before I do that, I want to take a minute to talk about why Habitat's work on affordable homeownership is so critically important. Even before the pandemic, more than 17 million households across the U.S. paid more than 50% of their income on rent. That includes thousands of families in our area. And let's take a minute to reflect on that. So imagine you make $65,000 a year working as a teacher, and half of every single paycheck you receive goes to rent. How do you even begin to decide how to spend the limited amount of money you have left? Each day, families in our community are making impossible choices between rent and food and childcare, transportation, education, and healthcare. The high cost of renting makes saving money for a down payment a challenge. But even in the face of all of that adversity, many families still manage to set aside money. But those savings are rarely enough for a down payment in our area where the cost of a single-family home is out of reach and condo association fees make more reasonably priced homes unaffordable. Basically, what I'm saying is that our housing system is failing our families. Habitat works to fill the affordable homeownership market gap by creating opportunities for hardworking families to purchase homes, gain equity, and build wealth. Habitat homeowners apply to purchase a home from Habitat much like they would a bank. Habitat staff reviews applications, we look at income, we look at debt to income, trying to make sure that families aren't paying more than 30% of their income on housing. We look at credit, making sure folks pay their bills on time, haven't had any major issues recently, and then we also look at housing need. All qualified applications go to a selection committee. It's a blind process, and they select the future homeowners. Then buyers spend hundreds of hours helping to build their homes and also in homeownership preparation workshops. They pay an affordable down payment, they go to settlement, and they purchase their homes with an affordable mortgage that's underwritten and financed by Habitat. And these mortgages are made affordable by subsidizing the cost of each home. So essentially, Habitat spends more to build and rehab homes than we know we can sell them for. And generous donations from individuals, corporations, governments, faith groups, foundations, all help to buy down the cost of that mortgage to an affordable amount. That's partnership housing. Through no fault of their own, so many families are locked out of homeownership and wealth building, and each Habitat family's journey to homeownership is unique. So now it's my pleasure to introduce a video from Mr. Richardson as he shares his homeownership journey with us this morning.
What's an average day like in this house?
It's hectic, very hectic. I get up at around 5:30, pack my daughter's lunch. She's usually the last to wake up. Like, I want her fully rested or she was gonna be attitude the whole way. Drop the kids to school. We are in Gaithersburg, Maryland. I work in DC. My middle son goes to school in DC as well. So we spend a lot of our time on the road. I'm a first generation American. My family's Caribbean. I'm the first person in my family to own a home in America. So it was like, that was a big deal to me because I feel like that kind of like set the foundation for my children as well. So my oldest son's name is Brendan. He's very helpful. So he's like an extra dad. So like he kind of helps out with his brothers and sisters.
And we got a chicken. So this will be a little different because you got to answer my question.
3 chickens.
My second son is Calvin. He's my typical middle child. He's always complaining about not having as much privileges as the older one.
That's good, we're good.
My youngest son is Bryson. He's always saying he's bored, and that means he's gonna either do push-ups or run around outside. And then last but not least is my daughter Kendra. That's my baby girl.
What's up, shorty?
I was living in an apartment, and then I was just kind of like, I decided at that point my family definitely needed more space. I wanted better opportunities for them. The appeal to this home for me is the public school system has been rated higher than what we were. So at that point, I then began my search for a home, and the home buying process was it's daunting. I think I was online just like maybe like Googling homeowner programs, and I saw Habitat. I was always familiar with the name. When my application was accepted, I was pretty shocked, but I don't know, there was something inside of me that was still kind of like, something's gonna happen, something's gonna fall out. So it really didn't seem real to me. Even to the day when I went to my sign-in, but when she gave me the keys, she was like, "You can smile now," and I was just like, I have to smile. It's a 3-bedroom, 4-bathroom home, backyard, front yard, driveway, garage, pretty much everything I wanted as far as the home. Never had a garage, never had a garage opener, so like just pressing the button and seeing the garage go up, and then you kind of stand there. I feel like kind of like a Lion King, kind of look out like, yeah, it's my house. It's my house. Protect our body and soul, we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. I tell them all the time, like, this is our home, but in the future, this is gonna be your guys' home, that you guys can have and to pass on to your children. The idea of home ownership being something that's not really so far-fetched to them, it would only drive them to want the same thing when they get older.
Wasn't that an amazing story from Calvin? I just really saw that video yesterday and recognized the houses because they are literally up the street from the church where I pastor. And even more importantly, and I need to recognize by this statement some folks from Emory Grove United Methodist Church who are here, some of whom actually helped me clean the house so that Calvin could receive the keys and move into a clean house. Thank you all. We have seen that Delegate Susan Lee has come into the room. Delegate Lee, we're thankful. Thank you. And I've got the great pleasure to introduce to you now our honored guest who is coming to us via the ones and zeros from Atlanta, Georgia this morning. Natasha Reed Rice is Habitat for Humanity International's first Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, and is leading the development and execution of Habitat's social strategy for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Prior to assuming that role, she was the Associate General Counsel at Habitat and worked to create programs and strategies to generate sources of capital to enable Habitat affiliates to build affordable housing with families throughout the entire country. In addition to her work at Habitat, Natasha served as an associate pastor at the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia for 11 years, before joining All Saints Episcopal Church as its minister for public life. Will you join me in welcoming Natasha through the waves? Now, this is a little strange for an old guy like me. I'm going to be having a conversation with Natasha, who's looking at me on a monitor back there, but I'm actually talking to an image of Natasha, and which you are going to see up here. So ignore how strange all of it sort of feels, but listen to what it is she has to say, because the topics that we're exploring and the work for all of us is very, very, very significant. Natasha, much has been said about Habitat's roots as a faith-based organization with Justice Ministry of Affordable Housing as its mission. We have some of the most significant religious diversity within the bounds of our affiliate in Montgomery and Prince George's counties, and yet there are many who may also shy away from the potential religious conflicts that might be associated with such a mission. There are still others who, for political reasons, are not comfortable working with a faith-based organization. In what ways would you say that Habitat's mission is really a broader community mission? And in which ways does Habitat's mission, though rooted and motivated by faith, really transcend faith?
Well, let me first say good morning. Hello to all. If you think it's strange for you, I can't see anyone but you. So I'm assured that there's a full room of folks. That's right. And it's not just some track of applause that you need for to feel good about the work you're doing. No, I just want to say good morning, and I'm just so excited to join forces with you this morning and to see the great work that you all are doing there in the Metro Maryland area. So very excited to be here. Now to your question. As many of you know, Habitat is grounded in a theological beginning. You know, we have a theological imperative to love our neighbors as ourselves. We have a theological imperative to put God's love into action. And that's a comprehensive whomsoever mission. You know, even our vision statement for Habitat says we believe in a world where everyone has a decent place to call home. So that everyone language, that whomsoever language that comes out of even the Christian theology is one that embraces community and one that embraces all. I really like to lean into the work of multi-faith and interfaith, because it's in that space that we're able to see the treasures of other communities and faith traditions, as well as to understand how they enrich one another. Barbara Brown Taylor, an Episcopal priest and a current professor, wrote a book entitled Holy Envy. And in it, she says, and I'll paraphrase, she says, whenever she's pushed to choose between her neighbor and her religion, she always chooses her neighbor, because our God never told us to love our religion. When we get into the depth of that, it really pushes us to now say, oh, if we are really to embody the love of God and put it into action, then we have to love God's image that walks upon the earth, right? So that is the imago Dei of God, the image of God that we see right before our very eyes. And so how we live that out through the Habitat mission is essential. And so working and walking in that every oneness and pushing forward what I call a neighboring movement is essential to us realizing our vision and our mission.
Thank you. Thank you very much. An additional question. Here at the Metro Maryland affiliate, we are embarking on two major projects in Montgomery County. The first one is at Randolph Road in Silver Spring, and the other is at Heritage Emery Grove in Gaithersburg. In both of these neighborhoods, people live among the greatest racial, ethnic, religious, and economic diversity in the country, not just the state. And I know your focus at Habitat is currently DEI, and that Habitat International is launching a Black homeownership initiative. What are the challenges to affordable housing presented by our country's history of structural racism? And what opportunities are being presented to us as we approach this work from a DEI's perspective?
Yeah, that's a wonderfully framed question because it allows me to talk about a whole bunch of stuff, but I have limited time. So bear with me because I'm going to try to squeeze it all in.
I won't cut you off.
I think it's important for us to know, and the great work that you all are doing is context-based, right? You're looking and having to be a part of the community in which you are pushing forward the mission of Habitat. A simple way in which I describe diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially in the Habitat context, is at Habitat, we're Habitat for Humanity. The focusing in of the diversity, equity, and inclusion lens pushes us to focus in on the humanity in Habitat and to really begin to see those who we otherwise haven't seen, who are on the margins, and to hear those voices we otherwise haven't heard, listened to, or included. So the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion pushes us beyond structural limitations. And we see that in the housing sector in particular, that historically in the United States, housing opportunities have been limited to those who've been on the margins, which have been African Americans specifically, people of color generally. And so the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion is like the parable of Jesus when he has his 100 sheep and one goes off astray and he leaves the 99 to go find the one. The work of DEI is going after the one, going after those populations that have been marginalized, that have been led astray, that have been denied access to the opportunity that we call America, right? In pursuit of happiness, the importance of land ownership, that's essential even to kind of our founding foundations of us as a country. So when we look at housing in this country, we can't do it outside of context. We have to look at the structural barriers that have been put in place. We go back to the 1920s and 30s when the federal home, the FHA limited the number of families or the types of families that would receive any type of mortgage insurance. And it was through the support of FHA that suburbs were launched all over the country. And access to those homes in those suburbs was denied to African Americans specifically, right? When we begin to look at the restrictive covenants in deeds all over this country, even in places within this country that don't have a legacy of Jim Crow. We look out west in California, in Richmond, California, when we look in the Midwest, in Cleveland, Ohio, these were communities that were once integrated that were then segregated by federal law and federal policy. And so we're coming into a context where our communities, our neighborhoods have been divided by race. And now we've got to come in courageously today to figure out how we begin to repair those separations, to bridge those divides and bridge those gaps. So the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion is not just some conceptual Shangri-La, right? It is, we have to cast the vision and then we have to do the work. And you all are intimately involved in doing the work. And we know that means there are many layers to this work. There is a reason why the civil rights movement halted in housing, right? The Fair Housing Act wasn't passed until 7 days after Martin Luther King was assassinated. Martin Luther King and his team around the country tried to make progress in housing when he had the Chicago campaign. There are so many layers to housing. We have so many industries that intersect there. we also have the space, it becomes a more intimate space. So it becomes a much more crucial space where we have the divisions that we have to bridge. And so the work that you all are doing requires community engagement, requires an asset-based approach, as you're doing, requires the ability to bring together all these layered financing options and subsidies so that we can begin to peel back the onion of structural racism, of structural divisions, and begin launching a new narrative and a new strategy and showing others what it means to build together rather than to build apart.
Well, that's fantastic. Can you say a word, just briefly, about what Habitat is imagining with its Black Home Ownership Initiative?
Yeah, and so as we get into one way that we express and cascade the vision of diversity, equity, and inclusion is through a very specific and intentional strategy, program strategy. And so one of the ways in which we're doing that is through our Advancing Black Homeownership Initiative. And why? Because one, we're looking to deal with those marginal communities. The African American community in particular has one of the lowest homeownership rates of any demographic in the country. And it's oftentimes realized that that's attributed to the history of segregation in this country. In addition, that gap appears to be growing, right? So when we look at a lot of data, we see that that's a gap. It's a growing gap. We know that there is a connection, a direct connection between home ownership and wealth in this country and wealth building. And home ownership is a crucial component to being able to build wealth. The gap in wealth in between Black and white households in this country, it's such that it takes approximately 10 Black households' wealth to equal one white household's wealth. When we look at home ownership, there's a division of home ownership among the Black community in this country. There's different sources of data, but it's approximately in the low 40 percentile points. But you look at white home ownership and it's close to 75%. That gap is something that we want to address. And what is so great is that when we begin to address the most vulnerable, the most marginalized, the solutions that we create actually help those who are not at the rim or the edges of that division. And so the work of Advancing Black Homeownership will obviously help us to address other marginalized groups and provide strategies that address housing solutions for those groups as well.
Well, Natasha, we thank you so much for making the early morning sacrifice to be with us. I know you were out at the polls last night. And on behalf of our affiliate and all of our guests here, we thank you for the work that you're doing in Habitat. Thanks so much for coming.
And thank you all.
And now I'd like to ask Jeff Dee, President and CEO of Habitat Metro Maryland, to come to the podium to talk about affordable housing and our vision for the future. Jeff?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you very much for being with us today and for just being here and being present. So quite simply, we're here today because there is an affordable housing crisis in our community. Let me share with you and build off what Sarah said earlier. Let me share with you some sobering facts about the state of affordable housing in Montgomery and Prince George's counties. Today, Montgomery County lacks nearly 50,000 housing units that are affordable to families earning less than 50% of the area median income. From a home ownership perspective, the average price for a single-family detached home is over $770,000. So it goes without saying that these homes are unattainable even for many middle-income families. Many of our police officers, firefighters, and teachers cannot afford to buy a house in Montgomery County. Multifamily homes sell on average for $375,000, but due to zoning restrictions, you can actually only build multifamily housing on 2% of the land in Montgomery County. In Prince George's County, home values and rental housing costs are rising at the second highest rate of any DC metro jurisdiction. It is estimated that there is a gap of about 23,000 units in Prince George's County, and many households are locked out of the home ownership market due to down payment requirements and credit issues. And furthermore, a resident of Prince George's County needs to earn about $71,000 annually or work 137 hours at the minimum wage rate to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. That's a lot. That's a lot. Now, in both counties, what we experience as Habitat is that it is exceedingly expensive to build new homes. And Sarah alluded to this earlier. For example, each home ownership unit that we build costs over $400,000 and requires a subsidy of between $100,000 to $150,000 each time we build a house. And this subsidy is only growing with increased and unpredictable construction costs, as a lot of people know. Now, it's easy for us to get overwhelmed and to look at those numbers that I gave you and even get a little discouraged, right? And to give up before we even get started. A friend of mine, years ago, he climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. And what he was told is, you know, you wake up in the morning, you look at how far you have to go, and then you put your head down and you poly-poly, 1 foot at a time, 1 foot at a time. Because personally, I think if we give in to this discouragement and just saying, well, whatever, I think that's actually the easy way out. And that's not what I'm suggesting this morning. Rather, I think it's important that we acknowledge the task ahead of us, but focus instead on how we all can, all of us through Habitat, can make a difference in another person's life, which for that one person can be life-changing. So let me share a story to sort of illuminate this point. You might have heard it before. One day after a storm out at sea, a young boy was walking along a beach. And as far as the eye could see, the beach was covered by starfish. I don't know why it's starfish, but that's just the story. And the starfish had all washed ashore during the storm. So as the boy walked along, he would stop, pick up a starfish, and throw it back into the water. Now, an older gentleman was walking along the beach, and he saw the boy, and he went up to him and said, "Young man, you know, I've been watching you for some time now, picking up starfish and throwing them back into the water. However, the beach is literally covered with thousands upon thousands of starfish. It doesn't matter what you do, you're never going to be able to help all of them." So the young boy looked up at the man, looked back down at the starfish, and as he looked back up at the gentleman, he threw the starfish in the water and said, "Well, it matters to that one." And that's what I'm suggesting to you. And I want to share with you 4 ways that Habitat for Humanity Metro Maryland and all of you here today are making a difference in affordable housing. So let's talk about our home ownership program. Sarah alluded to this a little bit earlier, but one of the perennial myths about Habitat for Humanity is that we give away homes. And we run into this all the time. And actually, that is not even close to the reality of what the homeowners have to do. First, applicants for the Habitat Home Ownership Program must have a demonstrated need for housing. Then they have to be in a certain income range that enables them to make their monthly mortgage payments. Then once they're accepted into the program, they have to attend homeowner workshops on various topics, including budgeting, homeowners insurance, civic participation, homeownership 101. And then they have to complete their sweat equity hours, which can range from 200 to 400 hours of sweat equity that they and their family are putting into their homes. Then, once the homes are completed, the families go to the settlement table, just as you or I would, and purchase their home through a zero interest, we can't offer anybody else at zero interest, just our families, a zero interest 30-year mortgage. The bankers wouldn't like that. And then it's our policy at the time of settlement that a new homeowner cannot pay or will not pay more than 30% of their household income on their mortgage. And that includes insurance and taxes. Now, while we continue to rehab or build a few houses each year, we are in the early stages of transitioning to completing larger scale projects that, as we see the issue and the challenge of affordable housing in Montgomery, Prince George's County, we want to do more. We want to do bigger. So let me tell you about our first project that's coming up, the Randolph Road project. Now, this is a $92 million project in partnership with AHC, and AHC is here today. Where are you, AHC? Right here, AHC. They're our partners on this project. And This project will be focused on building 195 mixed income units at the intersection of Randolph Road and Veers Mill. AHC will build and operate 168 rental units, while Habitat will build and operate build and sell 24 condominiums and 3 single-family homes. Now, we're going to closing next Friday. It's actually Tuesday. I wanted to see if Alan was going to freak out on that. We're going next Tuesday. And God willing, the creek don't rise. And it is important to note, and I do want to give a shout out to the county, because this is an example of where the county has taken county-owned land and prioritized it for affordable housing. And that's a model that we can use throughout Montgomery, Prince George's County, and serve as a model for others, because there is land that is available. We just need the will of the elected officials that we are seeing in Montgomery County to do that. Now, the Habitat portion of the project, which you can see illustrated on the screen here, is going to cost approximately $9.9 million. And we are fortunate to be working with Sandy Spring Bank, who's here, Mickey and their team. They're working on our construction loan. And as part of the capital stack for the project, I am delighted to announce that just a few days ago, Monday, we actually achieved our capital campaign goal of $1.5 million. And I want to give a special thank you to our co-chairs, Guy Sims, Nick, Donna, Robbie Brewer, who helped us to achieve that goal. Now, here's the significance of this project, and that's what it's going to look like when it's all done. Seamlessly flow into the neighborhood and look beautiful. By co-locating home ownership units with rental housing, we can drive down the development and construction costs per unit, which then enables us to offer extremely affordable housing for lower income families. So nearly all of the units will be affordable to families earning less than 60% of the area median income, which is pretty cool. But here's where it gets better. Habitat has made a commitment that for the 24 condo units, 8 will be sold to families earning 30% of AMI, 8 at 40% of AMI, and 8 at 50% of AMI. You cannot get those type of opportunities other than here in Montgomery County with Habitat. But it gets better. The 24 condo units will have larger bedrooms than typically found in similar units, enabling them to house families of up to 6 people. Also, the condos will be situated on a half-acre park that runs through the center of the project and will include opportunities for kids to run around a playground, families to grill for gatherings, Alan's promised to grill for me, and residents to relax in a large open space, all near a future bus rapid transit line. So that's the first project. The next project that I want to talk about is once Randolph Road winds down, we're going to be moving on to Heritage Emery Grove, and that's something that Tim alluded to. And there we go. Now, this is a unique historical redevelopment project in Gaithersburg that will occur on 40 acres of land owned by Emery Grove UMC, the Housing Opportunities Commission, and Montgomery County. And this project is important because it provides the opportunity to be intentional in our actions, to rectify the past harms of urban renewal in the 1960s and 70s, which brought undelivered promises and the demise of an enduring community culture within Emery Grove. Now think about this for a moment. In Montgomery County, one of the wealthiest counties in America, there is a 32% gap in home ownership rates between white households and black households. Okay? And when the primary way to build wealth in this country is through home ownership, but historical actions and existing systems perpetuate that disparity, we must act with targeted intentionality, which is what we are going to do with our partners on this project. Heritage Emery Grove will focus on mixed income home ownership and affordable senior rental apartments with Emery Grove UMC as the historical center for the project. The plans call for street grids, pedestrian connectivity, an updated community center in Johnson's Park, along with historical programming, cultural amenities, and community gardening, which are all intended to reestablish the once familiar sense of camaraderie within the original Emery Grove community. So that gives you a sense of where we're looking. And there are several other things we have in the works that we're not going to talk about today. That's for next year. But we are moving towards trying to make greater impact through our work. So the next way we're working to make a difference, we talked about home ownership, now home preservation. So while Habitat is widely known for our home ownership program, there's another way that we make a difference, and that's through this home preservation program. As an organization, Habitat realized it was not enough to create new affordable housing opportunities, but we also had to preserve the existing affordable housing stock. You know, my mother, when she was alive, she had her own place, but she didn't have the financial resources to make the necessary repairs, right? And so what do? Well, that's where Habitat comes in. And our job is to ensure that critical health and safety issues are addressed for existing homeowners. For us, a home is not affordable if it is not energy efficient, healthy, and safe throughout the life cycle of the home. And I just want to take a second and point out to you the wide array of programs that come under the home preservation umbrella. It includes critical home repairs, weatherization services, accessibility modifications that we make to homes so that people can stay as independent for as long as they want within their own homes. And all these are ways that we can help people who are who are existing homeowners and are seeking a way to stay in their own home for as long as possible. So this just gives you some pictures of some of the people that we serve and some of the programs and some of the effects. So what's interesting to note is that these programs serve a gap in services in our local communities. There are programs and subsidies for lower income rental households, although not enough, but there's very few services available for homeowners. So one example of the demand for these services, just to share with you this, is that right now, today, we have an inquiry list of 1,600 families in Montgomery and Prince George's County that want our services, and that we are working to find ways that we can address that need. So that just gives you a sense of the magnitude of the problem. So we talked about home ownership, our home preservation program. Now I want to talk about the Restore. This is the third way that we're working to make a difference. The Restore is pretty cool. I call it goodwill on steroids. And the reason why the Restore is pretty cool is because what we are able to do is we take gently used donations from individuals and businesses, and then we resell them to the general public. And then we take that profit from the Restore, and then we put it back into affordable housing. Now, not only do we take donated goods, but we also, as part of that, is that we literally divert tons of materials from the waste stream, helping the environment. So the Restore, with about 100,000, we have two Restores, one on East Goody and one on Plum Orchard. Miss a day, miss a deal, shop often, shop early, shop early, shop often. But seriously, what they give us through the 100,000 people that come into the store every year is they give us the chance to, again, communicate our mission. And that's what we're delighted to do with our Restores. The last way that we are working is through our advocacy work. Now, this is really important. Habitat recognizes that we cannot build our way out of the housing crisis. As a matter of fact, if we were to look at all the Habitat affiliates across the country and to continue the model of building one or two houses at a time, it would take Habitat 5,000 years to get out of our current housing crisis. And that's not even dealing with the new supply gap of affordable housing in the future. So we are committed, and we see advocacy as a force multiplier. We are committed to working with elected officials, some of you here today, some of you will talk to you after this, about advocating for affordable housing, but not just home ownership. We're interested in advocating across the sector of affordable home ownership. So if we can get another $100 million from the County Council, hint, hint, next year for the Housing Initiative Fund, that primarily impacts rental, that's what we're gonna do, because we are interested in affordable housing across the spectrum. The last thing I want to just, as I conclude and before Tim comes up here, I want to just share some gratitudes with you. First, I'm grateful today that we can celebrate 40 years ago on October 29th, 1982, 3 people came together in Rockville to sign the Articles of Incorporation that launched Habitat for Humanity in Metro Maryland. Now, 40 years after that humble beginning, our organization can celebrate several milestones with you today. First, we have completed 750 projects between our home ownership and home preservation. That's right. We have served 580 families. We have served over 1,500 individuals. We'll clap for both those. 1,500 individuals. And this is, I think, the coolest thing. We have issued, as Habitat, we are the bank, we have issued over $15 million in zero-interest mortgages to families. I'm also grateful for our talented and dedicated board of directors. We have several with us today. Mary, our board chair, Gerard from Founders Bank, great bank, John Prancatelli, Eric, Peggy, Davis Construction. That's just a sampling of the amazing, I hope I didn't miss anybody, I'll get in trouble. That's just a sampling of the amazing people, and I'm very grateful that they give their time, talent, and treasure to our organization, helping us to grow and serve more families. I asked the staff to be in here because I think it's really important. I am grateful for the staff at Habitat Metro Maryland, and I'm grateful for the staff because they make my job easy. No, it's not too easy, Mary. But they make my job easy because this wonderful group of men and women come together and amaze me with their ingenuity, compassion, and dedication to serve others. We simply could not do our work without this amazing, dedicated group of staff. So if you could just join me in a round of applause to them. And of course, the leadership team of Sarah and Nancy, and Paige with development, they do a great job, so thank you. And the last thing I want to say is I'm grateful for Calvin and his story that we heard earlier today. I just want to take a moment to reflect on something he said. If you remember, the family in the video is gathered around the table, and you can hear a voiceover of Calvin saying, "This is their house." Right? And my heart is drawn to that statement by Calvin because it succinctly captures the power of Habitat for Humanity at work in our community. This work that we do, it's frustrating. It's a slog, but it's amazing. It's about economic empowerment and intergenerational transformation. One that does not just have a momentary impact today, but has a ripple effect for years and decades to come. One of the people here today, one of the people that work at Marriott, she bought her house from Habitat when her son was, I think, 4, and he's in 9th grade. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's stability. Habitat believes that a stable, decent place to live in a connected community with an affordable mortgage enables homeowners to save more, invest in education, pursue opportunities, and have greater financial stability. We know that better, more affordable housing leads to stronger childhood development and creates the ability and financial flexibility for a family to make forward-looking choices that have long-lasting impacts. So that's what we are working on in the year ahead. Forward-making impacts, forward-making decisions for families, and we ask you to come beside us and work with us as we empower families to build strength, stability, self-reliance through affordable housing. Thank you very much. I'll give it back to Tim. Thank you all for being here. We're very grateful for your support.
Thanks, Jeff. As we end this morning's breakfast, I want to leave you with this thought. Your voice, your time, and your financial support build strength and stability and independence for families in the need of a decent place to live. I want to leave that to sit with you just for a moment. It's your voice. It's your time. You've heard Jeff. Story about the starfish. You may have heard it 1,000 times, but not in this context. As we walk along the beach in Montgomery and Prince George's County, we know that both counties have been bleeding affordable housing for decades. And some might say there aren't enough Band-Aids in the world to fix that kind of bleeding. But for 750 special starfish, 750 families, we've been able to see them reach down into the sand and shake the sand off and put them back in a position where they can thrive in the community. That's what we've been doing at Habitat. So you, right here where you are, in your situation with your life, are able to make a difference for those families today. At each of your table settings, you'll find an envelope like the one I have right here. Habitat is best known for engaging people from all walks of life and rolling up our sleeves and joining us, getting a little dirty at build sites and lending their hands to our efforts. And while we certainly continue to need volunteers at our restores and build sites and to do our advocacy work, we don't know where we'd be without you. Along with that generous gift of time and financial support, however, and however small it may seem to be to you, it is critical to helping more families find strength, stability, and self-reliance through decent housing. Here's the question: what difference could you make today for multiple generations of a struggling family? For those in the audience who have been moved by what you've heard and seen today, I encourage you, I'm asking you, to consider making a donation to Habitat for Humanity of Metro Maryland and the families we serve. Well, what do you mean? A simple contribution of $50 will help provide a new door to keep our new families safe inside their homes. A donation of $100 or more helps to buy the wood to put a frame in walls or put insulation into an attic of a house. A donation of $300 or more helps to purchase windows that enable a child to look out at the world and dream big from a stable home. You might consider becoming a monthly donor. A monthly donation of only $25 helps to provide the wood and frame for an interior wall in one of our new homes. No donation is too small. All of it makes a difference. Each and every contribution makes a difference in the quest for decent and affordable housing. Whatever you're able to do, please know that from the bottom of our hearts, on behalf of all the families we serve, that we deeply appreciate your generosity. Help us to grab a starfish. Thank you all for coming, offering your kind attention this morning. Again, we offer special thanks to all of our sponsors for today for your commitment and support to making decent and affordable housing a reality in Montgomery County and Prince George's counties. I also wanted to thank all the committee members who helped to ensure the success of this event. You can see their names and all the corporate sponsors in the program. As you depart this morning, if you have filled in your envelopes and made a contribution, there'll be staff at the doors to help collect those along with your badges. One important note that's regarding parking. Our staff will also give you some parking validation tickets so you can get out without cost today. Amen, Pastor Warner. Speaking of your car, please enjoy our token of appreciation. You'll find in your bags at each of your seats, you'll find a car beverage coaster. These have been approved by Jeff, so remember his face when you're using it. Again, thank you all for joining us this morning and have a fantastic day. Thanks so much.